on the evolving challenges to freedom of opinion and expression. We note with concern the global trends identified, including shrinking civic space, the rise of information manipulation and growing May I ask to be moved to the last speaker, Vice President?
Oh, you are already, you've taken up already half.
And the growing coverage of public and private power and threatens the integrity of democratic discourse. As highlighted in the report, the space for freedom of expression is shrinking and new technologies are being used by both states, companies and money. Companies to manipulate online information spaces. We also take note of the warning that the artificial intelligence systems increasingly shape and manipulate what individuals believe to be real. Botswana reaffirms that freedom of expression is a cornerstone of our democracy as guaranteed by the Constitution, including upholding of open and pluralistic media involvement. Botswana has expanded digital literacy programs, which entails introduction of child online safety initiatives to counter harmful online content and bolster the protection of children. We echo the Special Rapporteur's reminder that restrictions must remain lawful, necessary, and proportionate, and that freedom of expression and equity are mutually supporting and interdependent. Botswana remains committed to safeguarding these principles as digital technologies evolve. I thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Can you please let us know if we need to take a technical break to work on the mic issues? Okay. Okay. I'll now continue with the next speaker, and I give the floor to the I'll now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Republic of Korea thanks the Secretary for her report. We would also like to express our sincere appreciation for her dedicated work over the past 6 years. We recognize that new and emerging digital technologies, including AI, have a great potential to promote the enjoyment of human rights, including freedom of opinion and expression. They can empower civic engagement, support the work of human rights defenders, enhance public participation, and facilitate the open and free exchange of ideas. At the same time, the digital environment continues to present serious challenges, including arbitrary restrictions on access to information, unlawful or arbitrary surveillance, disinformation, threats to information integrity, and attacks and harassment targeting journalists and human rights defenders. My delegation believes that responses to these challenges should be firmly grounded in international human rights law and a human rights-based approach. In this regard, my government takes a balanced approach to address the social harms caused by spread of illegal information and disinformation online, while minimizing restrictions on the freedom of expression guaranteed by the Constitution. Special Rapporteur, how can we take practical steps to address emerging risks in the digital space while ensuring that such measures do not lead to undue restrictions on freedom of opinion and expression? Thank you.
Thank you. Excellencies, dear participants, we will now take a 10 minutes technical break. They need to reboot the system, I believe.
that the erosion of the vital space for freedom of expression and opinion is a threat to democracy and a danger to our system of values and
interactions. I also recommend using the opportunity of the next curriculum review to enhance student-centered, competency-based approaches that prioritize problem-solving, analytical thinking, creativity over memorization, reduce curriculum overload, integrate practical life skills in line with international aims of education, and ensure meaningful participation of students, many of whom impressed me greatly. I welcome the new government's stated commitment to democratic standards and stronger compliance with European and international human rights norms. I particularly welcome the establishment of a Ministry of Children and Education that aligns with my recommendation for a dedicated education ministry with strong pedagogical expertise. I also welcome steps to address conflicts of interest in university governance, restoring academic freedom and institutional autonomy, and enabling Hungary's full return to European academic programs. The new government has an important opportunity to rebuild trust and place education reform on a sound human rights foundation. I hope it will use this opportunity with courage, transparency, and meaningful participation by students, teachers, parents, and the academic communities. Thank you, Mr. President. I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you. According to our practice, we shall start by hearing the delegation of the country concerned. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Hungary. You have 5 minutes.
To Ms. Sahid on presenting her comprehensive report about her visit to our country. Between the country visit and the publishing of the report, parliamentary elections took place in Hungary on 12 April 2026, and a new government has been formed. The new government received a strong mandate to implement fundamental changes, including in the field of public education, and it intends to do so. As part of this process, the system of curriculum regulation will undergo comprehensive reform in order to ensure that young people in Hungary leave school equipped with modern and competitive knowledge for the labor market. The current system that focuses almost exclusively on the acquisition of factual knowledge and regarding which there is room for improvement in order to take into account students' age-specific characteristics as well as their intellectual and emotional development will be replaced by a curriculum model centered on the development of the 21st century competencies, including collaboration, communication, creativity, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. Our goal is to replace the current fragmented subject structure with a framework in which knowledge is delivered in a much more integrated manner through stronger connections between disciplines. Personalized teaching practices that take individual learning opportunities and needs into account will become an integral part of the classroom instruction. We expect that these changes will contribute to the development of a more efficient, more effective, and more equitable education system. We welcome that the report describes the opportunity program in vocational education and training in an appreciative manner. Regarding the recommendation on VET, not become channels of social stratification or premature labor market insertion, as well as on VET's role to provide transferable skills and access to higher levels of education, Hungary agrees with these principles. We have already undertaken several significant policy measures to this end, but we strive to further develop these policies. Hungarian higher education has been shaped by several political, administrative, and institutional changes. The development of the system shows a transition from traditional state-controlled governance towards a more diverse structure where universities can be maintained by different types of organizations, including foundations, churches, and private actors. The changes in education governance also demonstrate the importance of administrative organization. The transfer of responsibilities from the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Culture and Innovation to the Ministry of Education and Children represents an attempt to create a more coordinated approach to managing different levels of education. This highlights how government structures can influence the way education policies are being implemented. Another important aspect is the relationship between the Hungarian higher education system and the European cooperation. Following the political agreement reached between the Hungarian government and the European Commission and the ongoing review of the relevant Hungarian legislation, Hungary is expected to resume its full participation of the Erasmus Plus program in the near future. The government is committed to ensuring academic freedom and the autonomy of higher education institutions and deems maintaining a connection with international research programs and community a priority. The transformation of the Hungarian Research Network and other research institutions also reflects broader changes in the Hungarian research environment. In closing, allow me to reiterate Hungary's commitment to fully cooperating with and to continue to uphold the standing invitation for UN Special Procedures mandate holders. I thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. The list of speakers is now closed. I now invite interested delegations to ask questions to the Special Rapporteur and make comments on her reports. The speaking time is 1 minute, 30 seconds for all. I'd like to recall that the duration of the interactive dialogues is 1 hour and 30 minutes. However, if time permits, additional delegations will be able to speak. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the European Union.
Thank you. Mr. Vice President, the European Union welcomes the Special Rapporteur on the right to education and thanks her for her report. The EU reaffirms the human right of everyone to education as well as our commitment to achieving SDG 4. As the report identifies, access to quality education is essential and insufficient. A holistic approach to the right to education must also address its content with curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment as core and interconnected elements. Education systems should support learner-centered and participatory approaches. They should promote critical thinking, creativity, digital skills, civic engagement, and a respect for diversity, while also addressing discrimination, exclusion, and inequalities, both in line with the UNESCO Convention Against Discrimination in Education and the World Programme for Human Rights Education. Teachers are essential to this effort and should be supported and empowered. The EU and its member states are the main investor in education worldwide. The EU dedicates more than 10% of its international partnerships budget, over 6 billion euros, to education, contributing to 67 million more children gaining access to professionally trained teachers globally. Madam Special Rapporteur, how can states ensure that assessment systems support learning and inclusion rather than contribute to excessive pressure and inequality among learners? I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Iceland on behalf of a group of countries.
Mr. Vice President, I have the honor to speak on behalf of the Nordic Baltic countries. We thank the Special Rapporteur for her report and for bringing attention to the important role of curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment in realizing the right to education. We welcome the report's focus on the aims of education and on how education systems can better prepare learners for the opportunities and challenges they face today. Further, we commend efforts made in consulting children and young people directly. Their experiences and perspectives are essential to ensuring that education remains relevant and responsive to their needs. Teachers, learners, and parents all have an important role to play in shaping education systems. What learners are taught, how they are taught, and how learning is assessed should promote respect for human rights, increase knowledge and tolerance, and contribute to our active participation in society. In this regard, the relationship between international standards and local realities needs to be considered. Madam Special Rapporteur, how can states best ensure that curriculum development and reform processes are aligned with international standards for education while responding to the diverse realities and needs of learners and local communities? I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela on behalf of a group of countries.
Gracias.
Thank you, Vice President. I make this statement on behalf of the group of friends in defense of the United Nations Charter. Education is a fundamental human right, an essential tool for promoting peace, justice, solidarity, sustainable development, and human rights. We reaffirm our commitment to Agenda 2030 for sustainable development, including SDG 4. We express our concern at the fact that 771 million people are illiterate. More than 250 million children, teens, and youth don't go to school. We condemn attacks on colleges and education centres. We stress that developing countries are those most affected by increasing structural inequality, polarisation, lack of opportunities, and failure to meet commitments for financing for development. We call for mobilisation of greater financial resources and new investment to support efforts for inclusive, equitable, high-quality education for all. Finally, we stress the importance of international cooperation, which has helped guarantee education for low-income persons living in rural areas and remote areas. Those education programs are a valuable contribution to the full enjoyment of the right to education. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Sudan on behalf of the Arab Group.
شكرا جزيلا السيد نائب الرئيس.
Thank you, Vice President. I am pleased to deliver this statement on behalf of the Arab Group. The Arab Group wishes to thank the Special Rapporteur for presenting her report. The Arab Group reaffirms the importance of a right to education and to improving the quality of education in such a way as to cover both urban and rural areas. The Arab Group reiterates the importance of improving the educational level of children in the OPT and rebuilding the schools and universities that have been destroyed by the occupying power in Palestine and Lebanon, depriving too many students of education and jeopardizing their futures. The states of the Arab Group continue directly to provide an adequate educational environment for children, one that can develop their skills, taking into account the needs of boys and girls without discrimination in such a way as to enable them to enjoy their full rights while anchoring scientific and cultural rights and adopting modern methods and educational modalities and improving the quality of teachers, as well as adopting AI and e-learning methods while providing opportunities for children with disabilities and equipping them with adequate tools and integrating them into general school system with a view to integrating them within society. The Arab group insists on the importance of respecting diversity in the education system, especially that there's cultural, historical, and diversity in values in various societies, and those specificities need to be respected. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Kenya on behalf of the African Group.
Mr. Vice President, the African Group thanks the Special Rapporteur for her report and reaffirms its full support for her mandate. We entirely share the report's vision that education must not be limited merely to qualitative access, but rather prioritize qualitative and empowering content that respects human dignity. It is precisely in this spirit that the African Union's new continental education strategy for Africa 2026 to 2035 is anchored. This framework strongly reaffirms that education is a fundamental human right and a strategic pillar for peace, social cohesion, and sustainable development. The implementation of this new strategy requires our education systems to move beyond narrow performance metrics. It places a core focus on the genuine acquisition of competencies, including the social and emotional skills necessary to navigate the emerging realities of artificial intelligence and digitalization. In line with the findings of the report, our continental strategy places teachers at the heart of this transformation while promoting inclusive and equitable approaches that ensure equal opportunities for all girls and boys, particularly those in conflict situations. In conclusion, the African Group remains fully committed to restructuring its assessment frameworks and curricula to guarantee the quality, holistic, and emancipatory education that calls upon the international community to actively support these major regional efforts. I thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Bahrain on behalf of the GCC.
شكرا سيد نائب الرئيس.
Thank you, Vice President. The GCC states thanks the Special Rapporteur for her report on curricula and educational methods and assessment tools as key components as part of the right to education. GCC states reiterate that education is a pillar of its vision for sustainable development. We have investment greatly over the past years in developing education systems and increasing opportunities of access to quality education while taking care of the digital transformation, innovation, and skills that can enable the learner to deal with the challenges of the world today. We also keep abreast of developments in education systems in such a way as to build character of the learner and increase tolerance and mutual respect. We also reaffirm the importance of equipping the current and future generations with the necessary skills to be able to confront the challenges of today, including AI and the digital transformation. GCC states are of the view that developing educational methods should be driven by national priorities and depending on the societal needs of each country, while also paying attention to national identity, social values, and global trends. So we need to support our teachers and improve the partnership between the school community and the families. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Pakistan on behalf of the OIC.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The OIC group thanks the Special Rapporteur for the presentation of the report. We concur with this SR's observation that education is a fundamental and enabling human right that is indispensable to the realization of all other rights. Against this backdrop, we cannot overlook the suffering and plight of hundreds of thousands of Palestinian children whose right to education is completely denied as educational facilities have been reduced to rubble by the relentless bombardment of Israeli forces. Defying all the established norms and IHL, schools and universities have been systematically destroyed, depriving children of their fundamental rights to education, impairing their intellectual and personal development, and casting a long shadow over their future aspirations. These Palestinian children may never be able to fully enjoy a broader spectrum of human rights to which they are entitled to. Also, imagine the troubling state of those Palestinian children who daily struggle to pass through military checkpoints, physical barriers, and confrontations with the Israeli occupation forces to assess the remaining 5% of the schools. Madam Special Rapporteur, what will be the future of these Palestinian and other children under foreign occupation whose right to education has been stripped off by the inhuman occupation forces? I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Democratic Republic of the Congo on behalf of the OIF group.
Mr. Vice President, I deliver this statement on behalf of the French-speaking ambassadors. We'd like to thank the Special Rapporteur for her report. Education is a fundamental right and is a catalyzer for achieving all human rights. Despite progress, 163 million people are deprived of education according to the annual report from last year, and that number is on the increase. Low and middle income countries have 10% of their children who are unable to read and understand a text according to a World Bank report. We must have inclusive and high quality education throughout life based on resilient infrastructure and skilled teacher. Learning is vital for promoting equal opportunities, diversity, and intercultural diversity. Digital literacy also provides opportunities for access to knowledge, and there must be security and ethical concerns in the use of digital technology. So we should strengthen international cooperation, as this is absolutely vital for supporting national efforts. So there should be lasting and sustainable funding. There should be investment in education, citizenship, and sustainable development. Madam Special Rapporteur, how can the digital transition reduce gaps in access to education, particularly for girls and vulnerable groups, and support the right to high quality education? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Bulgaria on behalf of a group of countries.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. It's my honor to deliver this statement on behalf of 13 states: Armenia, Colombia, Cyprus, Dominican Republic, the Gambia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Malawi, Nauru, Panama, Romania, Sierra Leone, and my own country, Bulgaria. This is the core group of the Human Rights Council Resolution 56/5, which established the Intergovernmental Working Group to elaborate an optional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of the Child in order to strengthen the right to free education. We thank the Special Rapporteur for her report and welcome her reflection on how education systems must equip learners with the skills needed to navigate an increasingly complex and rapidly changing world. We deplore the persistent reality of millions of children who remain out of school. According to UNESCO data, although nearly 90% of children complete primary education, significant disparities exist at the pre-primary and secondary levels. The education is a fundamental human right and a key driver of poverty reduction, inclusion, development, and economic growth. Providing free education helps overcome inequality and protects children from child labor, abuse, exploitation, and early marriage. The optional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of the Child should establish clear universal standards which reinforce and complement the existing legal obligations. The optional protocol will support the realization of the right to education for all children. We underline the importance of the meaningful participation of children as the rights holders in the elaboration of the optional protocol. Key principles for the optional protocol have been drafted and shared with the member states in order to guide the forthcoming discussions. We encourage all member states to participate in the second session of the Intergovernmental Working Group, which will take place from August 31st to September 2nd this year. I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Bangladesh on behalf of a group of countries.
Mr. Vice President, Bangladesh has the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of a number of countries from the Asia-Pacific region. We thank the Special Rapporteur for her report. Our region encompasses diverse educational systems, cultures, languages, and levels of development. Despite our diversities, we share a common commitment to advancing Sustainable Development Goal 4 and ensuring inclusive, equitable, and quality education for all. We welcome the report's emphasis on aligning curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment with the internationally recognized aims of education, while reaffirming that decisions concerning educational content and delivery remain the sovereign responsibility of states. We further underscore the importance of learner-centered and inclusive approaches, investment in teacher capacity building, respect for cultural diversity and local contexts, and sustained efforts to ensure that no learner is left behind, including those in the most vulnerable situations. We also recognize that digitalization and the increasing use of AI are profoundly reshaping education systems worldwide, presenting new opportunities to expand access to education while simultaneously giving rise to the risk of exacerbating existing digital divides. To conclude, we encourage continued efforts to strengthen education systems that are inclusive, adaptable, and future-ready, while ensuring that technological innovation, including AI, serves as an enabler of learning and human development rather than a source of new inequalities. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Before moving to the next speaker, I would like to kindly remind you to respect the speaking time of 1 minute and 30 minutes. Now that we have finished the joint statements, I will continue with I'll give the floor to the distinguished representative of Portugal.
Mr. Vice President, Portugal reaffirms our full support to the mandate of the Special Rapporteur and thanks Mr. Farida Shahid for all her dedication and work in the promotion of the right to education. Portugal strongly supports a human rights-based approach to curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment. Quality education must promote the full development of the human personality, as well as human dignity, equality, and non-discrimination. We particularly welcome the report's emphasis on learner-centered, inclusive, and participatory approaches. Students, teachers, families, and communities should not be passive recipients of education policies, but active participants in shaping them. Portugal welcomes the report's reference to our national experience, particularly community involvement and assessment practices that value intercultural competence, citizenship, and social responsibility. At a time of rapid technological, social, and environmental change, education systems must prepare learners not only to acquire knowledge, but also to think critically and to participate democratically. In the ongoing HRC session, Portugal will once again table the resolution to renew this important special procedure mandate for the further period of 3 years. Madam Special Rapporteur, how can states best strengthen the participation of students, teachers, and communities in curriculum and assessment reforms while ensuring coherence, quality, and accountability across education systems? I thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran via video.
My name is Fatemeh Zahra Sheikhabadi. I'm a student at Shajare Tayyebe School in Minab. Today I stand here to share my story, the story of a child who, similar to every other child, wanted to go to school, learn and play with her friends. On the morning of 28th of February, I thought it would be an ordinary day. I picked up my school bag and went to school. I played with my friends and we were happy together. Suddenly, my school was attacked by the United States and Israel in 2 separate attacks. I saw my friends, my teachers, and everyone I loved losing their lives. I witnessed scenes that no child should ever have to see. I have heard that the United Nations stands for the protection of children's rights. I, Fatemeh Zahra Sheikhabadi, a survivor of the Minab school attack, asked the representatives of the countries to hear the voices of the children of Minab, stand with us and hold the United States and Israel accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of UNESCO.
Who welcomes the Special Rapporteur's timely report, which highlights the central role of curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment in the realization of the right to education. These are not merely technical components of education system. They shape what learners learn, how they learn, and how the knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes they develop are measured and valued throughout their lives. International human rights law affirms that education must be directed towards the full development of human personality while fostering respect for rights, inclusion, peace, cultural diversity, and sustainable development. UNESCO's recent report on the right to education underscores that the right to education extends beyond access to schooling. It also encompasses quality content, curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment that are relevant, inclusive, and adaptable to learners' needs and that are placed within a lifelong learning perspective. Despite important progress, significant challenges remain. While many countries have adopted competency-based curricula, classroom practice and assessment practices often continue to prioritize memorization only and high-stakes testing over critical thinking, creativity, socio-emotional learning, learner well-being, and civic participation. UNESCO, including through the work of the International Bureau of Education, supports states in advancing curriculum transformation, strengthen learner-centered pedagogies, and promoting assessment approaches that enhance learning, inclusion, equity, and meaningful education outcomes. We thank the Special Rapporteur for this important contribution.
I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Bahrain.
Thank you, Vice President. We align ourselves with the statements of the political and regional groups that we belong to. My delegation has taken note of the report and its recommendations. We treat the importance of the approach that combines the right to education, curricula, and teaching methods and methodologies. The right to education features high in the human rights system. It plays a key role in the rights of societies and peoples. We are cognizant of this prominent role, and we have been promoting it through a number of deliverables, through mega projects for digital transformation, education AI platform, and modernizing curricula to be in line with the fourth industrial revolution. And we are also progressing towards a knowledge-based economy to have a generation that possesses the skills for innovation and resolve problems. Vice President, my country shores up all efforts for improvement of education in support of the SDGs to ensure comprehensive approaches and so that no one is left behind. Thank you, Vice President.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Gabon.
Thank you, Vice President. Gabon endorses the statements made by the groups that it belongs to, and we'd like to congratulate the Special Rapporteur on her relevant analysis, which highlights school curricula, pedagogy, and assessment as essential components of the right to inclusive and high-quality education. We share her view that these three factors should be carefully adapted to learners' realities in order to ensure equal opportunities and reduce obstacles faced by the most vulnerable groups. In this regard, my country has made education compulsory and free of charge in order to promote access to education for all, including pygmy populations for too long excluded from the formal education system. Efforts have also been made to promote more inclusive curricular and teaching approaches. But despite this progress, we still face the challenge of including and valuing cultural diversity in the education system. This warrants particular attention. Madam Special Rapporteur, what recommendations have you got for states in order to better integrate cultural diversity into curricula, teaching methods and assessment mechanisms whilst retaining the standards of quality and inclusion in the right to education? I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Mozambique.
Mr. Vice President, I thank you. Mozambique aligns itself with the statement delivered by the African Group and thanks the Special Rapporteur for her report that emphasized the importance of curriculum and pedagogy in the education process. My delegation recognizes that education should promote the full development of the human personality and sense of dignity, strengthen respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, empower every individual to participate effectively in a free society and contribute to sustainable development, social inclusion, and equal opportunities for all. In this regard, the government of Mozambique has continued its efforts to expand the school network, strengthen the implementation of compulsory education, and enhance school feeding programs with the aim of ensuring access to quality of education for all, particularly for girls, children with disabilities, and other vulnerable groups. We recognize, however, that significant challenges remain. The adverse effects of extreme weather events and limited human and financial resources continue to affect the provision and quality of education. To address these challenges, we have been working closely with national and international partners to build resilient education infrastructure, train and deploy more teachers, and ensure inclusive and adequate access to education for all. We thank you, Chair, for the floor.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Dominican Republic.
Gracias.
Thank you, Vice President. The Dominican Republic would like to thank the Special Rapporteur for presenting her pioneering report, which compels us to reconsider the right to education, because it doesn't stop at access to education, but also encompasses essential factors such as the curricular, pedagogy, and assessment. These are vital components for ensuring inclusive, relevant, and quality education. There must be a holistic vision to quality education. So this is why we have overhauled our curricula and they're now skills-based. We've also strengthened a participatory and continuing assessment system, and we provide lifelong learning for teachers as well. Nevertheless, as the report recognizes, the international community still faces structural challenges to access. For many states, particularly developing countries, one of the priorities must be to ensure that children, particularly girls, have access to pre-primary and primary education and complete secondary education. So we have the following question: how can states balance the need to extend universal access with the need to maintain high quality education when facing persistent inequalities and budgetary constraints? Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Zimbabwe.
Vice President, Zimbabwe welcomes the comprehensive report of the Special Rapporteur. Indeed, education must foster the full development of the human personality and a sense of dignity, strengthen respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, and equip every person to participate effectively in a free society. Zimbabwe recognizes that a modern economy requires dynamic workforce. We have successfully rolled out our heritage-based curriculum education, shifting focus from theory to innovation, industrialization, and practical skills. We have institutionalized foundational policies to guarantee the right to education and are progressively expanding basic state-funded education, focusing on vulnerable and rural communities first. The Education Act protects the physical and psycho-emotional integrity of all students. Furthermore, as online learning expands, Zimbabwe strives to protect learners from cyber threats and digital bullying towards a safe environment across both physical and virtual classrooms. Leveraging on the national ICT policy and e-learning strategies, we are equipping rural schools with solar power and internet connectivity to bridge the digital divide. Special Rapporteur, what specific mechanisms can be deployed to safeguard educational funding in developing nations facing severe climate-induced economic crisis? I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Ghana.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Ghana aligns with the statement delivered by the African Group and thank the Special Rapporteur for her report. We welcome the recommendation that curricular, pedagogy, and assessment should be approached as an integrated system that advances the internationally recognized aims of education. Ghana remains committed to ensuring equitable, inclusive, and quality education that equips learners with the knowledge, skills, values, and resilience needed to thrive in a rapidly changing world and contribute to sustainable development. As part of this commitment, Ghana established the National Education Consultative Forum in 2025 to promote inclusive stakeholder engagement in shaping education reforms. The forum supports efforts to strengthen curriculum relevance, learner-centered teaching, teacher development, and education governance. Ghana has also continued to advance the right to education through initiatives such as the Free Compulsory Universal Basic Education Program, Free Senior High School, and the No Fees, No Stress policy, which seek to expand access, reduce barriers to learning, and promote inclusive and lifelong education for all. Madam Special Rapporteur, what practical measures can states adopt to ensure that curriculum reforms remain grounded in human rights principles whilst responding effectively to national realities and emerging global challenges? I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Nauru. Nauru. Okay, I understand they're absent. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Lesotho.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The delegation of Lesotho welcomes the report of the Special Rapporteur on the right to education. This report attests to the fact that the right to quality and inclusive education is recognized under the international human rights law. We cannot deny the fact that this right is impacted by the digitalization processes. In this regard, the importance of the interplay between curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment, especially in the era of digital space, cannot be ignored. It follows, therefore, that very often there is need for reflection on how these aspects continue to be effectively integrated with a view to foster meaningful and enriching educational experiences. Integration of these three concepts has the potential to support, enhance, and effectively transform teaching and learning. Lesotho aligns with the recommendations of the Special Rapporteur and calls for the support for governments in the holistic realization of the right to education, with a view to accelerate its implementation in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. This support will go a long way in the constructive alignment of these three concepts, which are aimed to ensure that learners are equipped with skills, values, and resilience for real-world changes. I thank you.
Thank you. And I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Bulgaria.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Bulgaria aligns itself with the statement of the EU and expresses its appreciation for the comprehensive report of the Special Rapporteur on the issue of curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment. We appreciate the detailed examination of the issue with an important contribution of children and youth. The right to education is central to the full development of the human personality. This right should be underpinned by an adequate, creative, and adaptable learning process based on predefined standards while remaining respectful of the academic freedom. Tolerance, dignity, equality, justice, respect for human rights and cultural identity are among the most valuable results to be achieved through education. Bulgaria is a member of the cross-regional group that initiated Resolution 56/5 of the UN Human Rights Council in 2024, establishing an intergovernmental working group on a new optional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of the Child regarding free pre-primary and secondary education. We encourage all member states to participate meaningfully and support the elaboration of an optional protocol that can guarantee the availability of free pre-primary and secondary education for every child. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Côte d'Ivoire.
Thank you, Vice President. Côte d'Ivoire endorses the statements delivered by the groups it belongs to and thanks the Special Rapporteur for her report on curricular, pedagogy and assessment as part of the right to education. My country believes that it is states' responsibility to choose subject matters and teaching methods. Nevertheless, they should be in line with internationally recognized educational goals, such as fostering full development of personality and a sense of dignity, strengthening respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, and giving each individual the means to take an active part in free society. In order to achieve this goal, Côte d'Ivoire has undertaken a series of ambitious reforms to raise the quality of its education system, such as the 1995 Education Act and the new national programme to enhance early learning. Contents have been adapted to the current situation, particularly the digital environment. Teaching methods promote active participation by learners and developing skills that can be used in daily life. Madam Special Rapporteur, in view of donors' pressure and interference, how can we ensure that countries in development can achieve recognized educational goals? Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Ukraine.
Thank you, Mr. President. We welcome the Special Rapporteur and thank her for the report. The report notes that in Ukraine, the realities of war have further accelerated the shift toward adaptive assessment practices, reducing reliance on high-stake examinations and strengthening formative and diagnostic tools to ensure continuity of learning, even in wartime conditions. The right to education in Ukraine is being severely undermined by Russia's ongoing war against Ukraine. The United Nations has verified thousands of attacks on educational facilities, resulting in exchange damage to and destruction of schools and disrupting the learning of an entire generation. We invite all delegations to the opening of the exhibition One Desk, Two Marks, taking place today at 2 p.m. in the hall Despas produce third floor, building A, Palladination, sorry. This is actually just around the corner. This exhibition is part of First Lady of Ukraine's campaign, Every Generation Leaves Its Mark. Education shapes its legacy. It highlights both the resilience of children affected by war and the profound losses they have endured. Welcome. I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Holy See.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Education must always be directed toward the integral formation of the whole person, including the intellectual and moral, social, and spiritual dimensions. In this regard, the Holy See delegation wishes to make 3 observations. First, while information and knowledge are related, they are not identical. An educational system that privileges the rapid accumulation of information over the disciplined work of study, reflection, and discernment may produce learners who know many things yet struggle to find direction. The culture of immediacy and hyperstimulation exacerbates this concern. In this culture, instant answers and summaries can extinguish the desire for inquiry and exploration that education should awaken. Second, the rapid advancement of information technology and artificial intelligence also poses critical pedagogical challenges. The advance of information technologies and AI is rapidly rendering curricula obsolete that were designed for a different era. This forces states and educators to rethink what is taught and how schools, learning spaces, methods of assessment, and even the role of teachers are developed. Thirdly, the duty of the education does not lie solely with the state or the schools. The family is the primary educator of the child, and parents are the first teachers. Parents have the right to choose the formative tools that respond to their convictions and to seek those means that will help them best fulfill their duty as educators. On the other hand, public authorities have the duty to guarantee this right and to ensure the concrete conditions necessary for it to be exercised. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Nigeria thanks the Special Rapporteur for our report. Nigeria reaffirms its commitment to education and recognizes its vital role in promoting human dignity, social cohesion, national development, and peaceful coexistence. We welcome the emphasis on quality education that promotes both learning and character development. We particularly welcome its recognition of the importance of parents, cultural identity, and context-sensitive approaches to learning. We affirm that parents remain the primary caregivers and first educators of children, and that their role should continue to be respected and supported in the development and delivery of education. We also welcome the recognition that decisions regarding curriculum pedagogy and assessment remain the responsibility of states, and further note the positive reference to Nigeria's experience in providing trauma-informed education for children affected by conflict and insecurity. However, we know that certain concepts and approaches referenced in the report, including comprehensive sexuality education, CSE, remain the subject of differing legal, cultural, and social perspectives among member states. We therefore reiterate that education policies must respect national context and caution against presenting non-consensus concepts or interpretations as established international human rights obligations or universally agreed standards. Finally, Nigeria reaffirms its commitment to inclusive, equitable, and quality education for all. I thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation.
Vice President, the right to education is enshrined in Article 43 of the Constitution of the Russian Federation. Public education is free of charge, universally accessible for all children, regardless of citizenship, social status, or place of residence. Our country consistently upholds the right to education in mother language for representatives of all peoples of the country. Education institutions in all regions of the country, their tuition is given in Nenets, Evenki, Chukot, and other indigenous languages. We develop specialized curricula aimed at promoting respect for national culture of participants. There's been mass digitalization of schools in the country. Russian experience stands in stark contrast to the situation in a number of European states. In the Baltics, State schools there have legislatively moved exclusively to tuition in the state language, which has denied representatives of the Russian language minority who make up a quarter to a third of the population the right to receive tuition in their mother language. And the Republic of Moldova has effectively, systematically cut the number of tuition hours in mother tongue. In Ukraine, languages of national minorities have effectively been phased out from the public system. Forced linguistic assimilation through education system is a violation of international norms, including of Article 30 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. We urge the Council to devote undivided attention to similar gross violations of the integral right of every person to receive tuition in his mother tongue. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Djibouti.
Merci, Monsieur le Vice.
Thank you, Vice President. Djibouti aligns with statements made by the groups it belongs to and thanks the Special Rapporteur for the presentation of a report examining the right to education through school curricula, pedagogical practices and assessment mechanisms. We believe that the right to education is a fundamental right and a key lever for the exercise of all human rights, from sustainable development, peace and social cohesion. Djibouti also believes that assessment systems should support learning, encourage development of skills and value creativity, capacity of adaptation of students to prepare them to become responsible, resilient citizens capable of contributing to development of inclusive societies. We take note of your assessment of the current international normative framework, the different approaches on this issue, as well as difficulties in defining a shared education model adapted to contemporary challenges. Madam Rapporteur, how can states effectively square integration of new challenges in curricula with the need to preserve inclusive education systems, taking into account national realities? Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Mauritius.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We thank the Special Rapporteur for a report, including highlighting the critical role of education in the holistic development of the child. Mauritius is committed to a society where the rights and the best interests of children are safeguarded and promoted. We recognize the right to everyone to education, with compulsory education required up to the age of 16. In fact, our Children's Act recognizes the refusal to provide education as a form of neglect. Free public education is provided to all, as from pre-primary to tertiary. Both boys and girls are offered the same facilities, including subjects taught at primary, secondary, and tertiary level. This common curriculum encourages not only the cognitive, but also the holistic development of learners. To facilitate access to education, free transport facilities are provided to and from educational institutions. We use this opportunity to reiterate our support for the elaboration of an optional protocol on free primary and secondary education. This instrument will reinforce the right to education and will mark a significant advancement in child rights jurisprudence. We also welcome the involvement of children in the drafting process of such an instrument that directly concerns their rights and their interests. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Afghanistan.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We welcome the report of the Special Rapporteur and express our deep concern over the continued denial of women's and girls' right to education in Afghanistan and its generational consequences after nearly 5 years. The figures before this Council demand our full attention, and it's an estimated 3.8 million girls aged 7 to 18 are currently out of school, and each year approximately 250,000 more girls are permanently excluded from secondary education. If the ban imposed in September 2021 remains in place until 2030, more than 2 million girls will have been denied education beyond primary level. What is being dismantled is not only access to education, but access to knowledge itself. In the absence of any alternative, the Taliban have expanded a parallel system of religious instruction with more than 21,000 madrasas now reported across the country, with a curriculum in line with the Taliban's interpretation of Sharia law, prescribed gender rules, and race and behaviors codes. This trajectory risks a long-term decline in national literacy, creating conditions conducive to extremism and renewed conflict. Mr. Vice President, we call on this Council and the international community to maintain consistent pressure on the Taliban to unconditionally lift all restriction on women and girls' education.
I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Slovakia.
Mr. Vice President, Slovakia aligned itself with the statement delivered by the European Union. We thank the Special Rapporteur for her timely and substantive report on curriculum, pedagogy and assessment as the key dimensions of the right to education. We believe that education should extend beyond access to schooling and foster the full development of the human personality grounded in human rights and social cohesion. In this regard, Slovakia supports approaches that seek to reflect these principles across learning content, teaching practices, and assessment methods while promoting inclusive and learner-centered education. We underline the importance of fostering well-being, creativity, critical thinking, and active engagement. We also acknowledge both potential benefits and challenges linked to the increasing use of AI in education and highlight the importance of ensuring that technological developments remain consistent with human rights-based educational objectives. We appreciate the report's holistic perspective, in particular its emphasis on the meaningful participation of children and young people, as well as on assessment approaches that aim to support learning processes. I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Cuba.
Vice President, we agree with the Special Rapporteur that education is a fundamental human right, crucial for the realization of all other rights. It's an essential pillar for sustainable development and prosperity of any nation. For the Cuban state, education is a top priority. We dedicate 20% of the national budget to education. In our country, we guarantee universal, free of charge access to all levels of learning. The ruthless economic siege imposed by US on Cuba, which has stepped up with a brutal full-on blockade of fuel for over 6 months, has gravely affected the education system. Lack of energy has forced us to reorganize curricula, leading to a significant drop in the number of tuition hours, affecting the quality of tuition. Around 40% of students have had to attend classes only intermittently. University education suspended classes and their students have had to carry out social community activities. With great efforts, we've managed to provide school for the over 8,000 children with disabilities, so they can receive free of charge specialized education services, despite the huge challenges imposed by the US policy. The education system in Cuba has not collapsed. We continue to educate with the resources we have, with self-sacrifice and commitment. That's our irrenounceable commitment. Thank you.
I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Eritrea.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Eritrea firmly believes an educational curriculum cannot be a rigid, important template. It must remain broad, balanced, and culturally relevant. Guided by our national policy of education for all, Eritrea's curriculum is designed to foster social justice, national cohesion, and self-reliance. A cornerstone of this approach is our mother tongue policy, ensuring primary education is delivered in the native languages of all 9 ethno-linguistic linguistic groups, preserving cultural heritage while reducing learning barriers. True equity requires moving beyond content-based teaching toward an outcome-based, multi-skilled model that bridges theory and practice. To support this, the Ministry of Education has invested in localized capacity building, collaborating across to train pedagogy heads, supervisors, and administrators in modern curriculum design. Additionally, our network of specialized boarding schools ensures that students from remote, nomadic, or disadvantaged backgrounds have equal access to rigorous academic and technical assessments. However, external challenges continue to obstruct progress. The continued imposition of UCMs undermines our educational infrastructure by restricting access to essential technologies, directly impacting our youth's right to education. Eritrea calls for respecting national ownership for educational policy. Genuine support should prioritize cooperative capacity building than honors local context. I thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Ireland.
Ireland aligns with the statement of the EU and thanks the Special Rapporteur for her report. As the United Nations Youth Delegates for Ireland, we have experienced the transformative role that education plays in the lives of children and young people. We echo the Special Rapporteur's findings that states should institutionalise the meaningful participation of learners, especially children and youths, as rights holders alongside teachers, parents and communities in co-designing curricula, pedagogy and assessment. Throughout the development of curricular reform, structures are in place in Ireland to ensure participation by young people and children and to ensure that their voices are heard, including through non-formal education and youth work. We align with the Special Rapporteur's statement that non-discrimination, equality and inclusion are essential conditions in curriculum, pedagogy and assessment for ensuring the right to education for all. The curriculum in Ireland at both primary and post-primary level is for all learners regardless of race, religion, socioeconomic background, gender or orientation. It is the aim that every child has access to equitable education. Issues in relation to inclusivity and diversity will be considered as integral parts of curriculum development. Special Rapporteur, how can states best safeguard and cultivate the meaningful participation of children and young people in human rights-based approaches to curricula development? Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Sierra Leone.
Vice President Sierra Leone aligns itself with the statements by the African Group and the joint statement delivered by Bulgaria on behalf of the core group. We thank the Special Rapporteur, Ms. Shahid, for her comprehensive reports and call for the renewal of her mandate. We appreciate the report's focus on the core elements of the rights to education, curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment. We also note the reminder that these elements must align with internationally recognized aims. Sierra Leone continues to advance a rights-based education system, thanks to our government's allocation of 22% of our national recurrent budget to education. Enrollment rates have sharply increased through the Free Quality Education Program. In April 2026, President Julius Maada Bio launched the 15.3 million Salon Pekin for Play and Learn Outcome Fund program, which provided early childhood education to 29,000 children across 87 centers. We strongly support the Intergovernmental Working Group's mandate to explore the possibility of, elaborate, and draft an optional protocol on free primary education and secondary education. The draft key elements provide a strong foundation for an optional protocol aimed at making free public education a reality for all children. As we prepare for the second intersessional meeting in September, we encourage all delegations to continue to engage in the process, and I thank you, Vice President.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Mali.
Vice President, Mali thanks the Special Rapporteur for presenting a report. My delegation stresses since independence, Mali has established a number of school programs for improving tuition, including educational assistance program, early learning programs. These different assessments have helped bridge gaps for learners in reading, writing, and maths, and to formulate recommendations for teachers as part of revamping the Mali education system. The Education Ministry works with several partners on the question of quality of education and availability of qualified teachers to do this. The Education Ministry has built a profile of high-quality teacher focused on key skills that teachers need to have in profession, like skills in implementing curriculum, disciplinary skills, didactic skills, pedagogic, social cultural skills, professional development skills, and administrative skills linked to the job. Finally, my delegation believes that curricula, pedagogy, and assessment are crucial to guarantee right to education. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Libya.
شكرا سيد النائب الرئيس. طلع
Thank you, Vice President. We've taken note of the report from the Special Rapporteur, Right to Education. That report has stressed that the right to education enables a comprehensive development of the child and is not limited to transmission of knowledge. We call for more flexible evaluation methods to support this. It needs to be compatible with our national efforts. We launched in cooperation UNICEF, a national strategy for health and school lunches for the period 2026-2030. To improve the physical and mental health of pupils in schools and to improve their learning capacities. The Education Ministry has established school activities of a cultural nature, artistic nature, to reconcile academic learning and improving skills. We stress the importance of developing education systems. In doing so, we cannot neglect the situation of Palestinian children denied their right to education as a result of the occupation and the destruction of schools. We call for respect of international humanitarian law.
I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Qatar.
السيد نائب الرئيس تشكر دولة قطر المقررة الخاصة.
Thank you, Vice President. We thank the Special Rapporteur for her report. And we congratulate her for shedding light on the importance of school curricula, teaching, assessment. Education is not just a matter of acquiring knowledge and skills, but an important tool in building more inclusive, coherent societies. That's why our education policy focuses on the values of dialogue, respecting diversity, rejecting discrimination, hate, and exclusion. To prepare future generations for peaceful coexistence as per our our 2030 vision and our 2024-2030 strategy. We seek to improve the skills of teachers. We ensure equal opportunities, and we use modern technologies for the benefit of education. At international level, we support the right to education in conflict zones. We have supported a right to education for more than 16 children and youngsters in more than 60 countries around the world. We're ready to coordinate with the international community to promote that right and to preach a culture of peace. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the United Arab Emirates.
Mr. Vice President, we have reviewed the report of the Special Rapporteur and we concur with the content thereof. Education must contribute to the comprehensive building of the character of a human, developing skills and values, and enabling the learner are to deal with the fast-paced transformations in our societies. We are convinced that investing in human beings is the most sustainable investment. The UAE has been eager to develop its curricula, its pedagogy, and its assessment tools, as well as adopting creative and innovative environments to ensure that our students are equipped with the necessary skills for the future. This is why we are hunkering down on AI training as well as digitalization and programming, as well as skills in critical thinking and innovation, which increases the preparedness of our students in handling future economies and societies. We also entrench the values of tolerance, coexistence, constructive dialogue, and cultural diversity as part of our human rights paradigm, and in such a way as to build more cohesion among peoples, societies, and cultures. In light of the fast-paced technological transformation, Madam Special Rapporteur, what are some of the most impactful trends for the future of education while ensuring inclusive and high-quality education in various states? Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Kuwait.
Mr. Vice President, at the outset, we associate with the statements delivered by the regional groups we belong to, and we seize this opportunity to thank the Special Rapporteur for her report on the right to education and her focus on the important role of the family in the educational process of children. Mr. Vice President, we in Kuwait are cognizant of the importance of education and its impact on promoting individuals and societies. This is why we were among the vanguard of countries that adopted the free education, and we keep providing scholarships for our children and students abroad and domestically in various disciplines. We continue to improve scientific curricula on a periodic scale, and we provide trainings for our teachers and administrative staff. Our children, as well as older persons, they all benefit from institutions that are dedicated to supporting them. This is in addition to the services we provide to persons with special needs. My delegation would like to seize the attention of the Special Rapporteur and this Council regarding the vicious assault on Kuwait, which has led to a closure of schools and transformed the way we conduct education. There's also an assault on children through screens. Online education deprives children from a real and comprehensive experience within school. classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Syrian Arab Republic.
السيد نائب الرئيس نشكر المقررة الخاصة على
Thank you to the Special Rapporteur for the report. We believe that the right to education necessitates a safe, inclusive education environment, consolidating capacities of education institutions and providing quality equitable education, not to leave no child behind in the education process, developing social cohesion, are priorities as we continue our efforts to remedy the sector and address the repercussions of the governance of the old regime. We focus on reintegration of children out of schools. There are catch-up programs, and we encourage children to return to school. The Syrian government launched a national campaign, Everyone for Education, which has helped us to reopen 2,236 schools and education centres, with a return of 500,000 children to schools and more than 38,000 educators and administrative officers to their posts, which has given the educational process stability and continuity. We stress the importance of support and international cooperation in order to provide inclusive education, high quality education for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Togo.
Merci, Monsieur le
Thank you, Vice President. My delegation thanks the Special Rapporteur for her comprehensive report on school programs, pedagogy, and assessment as key elements in the right to education. In Togo, education is a fundamental right and an essential lever for development. Along those lines, the Togolese government has conducted structural reforms to make school and teaching not just accessible, but truly inclusive and high quality. These reforms have also helped us bolster the struggle against school-based violence, including against corporal punishment. At a pedagogical level, Togo promotes a learner-centered approach with curricula integrating citizenship education, peace, gender equality, and respect for the environment. Togo calls for stepped-up international cooperation to support countries with limited resources in revamping their education systems in line with the SDGs. I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Saudi Arabia.
Mr. Vice President, we've reviewed with interest the report of the Special Rapporteur, and we underscore in this context the importance of developing curricula and pedagogical and assessment means that guarantee the provision of quality and inclusive as well as equitable education for all. We concur with the Special Rapporteur's focus on providing learners with skills, values, and knowledge that help the learners participate meaningfully in societies and prepares them for the future, which is one of the key purposes of the right to education. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia pays special attention to the right to education. This is why our basic law of governance stipulates the provision of public education, literacy programs, as well as fostering scientific and cultural development and scientific research. And we can continue to provide free education for all in public schools and public universities, and we promote equal opportunity in the education sphere while increasing access. This is part of our Saudi Vision 2030, and we continue to develop curricula through the National Curricular Center, and we remain engaged in developing educational environments that increase opportunities for all to learn and educate themselves, as well as consolidate those principles for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the United Republic of Tanzania.
Vice President, the UNHRC thanks Special Rapporteur for her comprehensive report. Tanzania agreed that the right to education extends beyond access to schooling and must contribute to full development of human person, respect for human dignity, response, citizenship, social cohesion, and sustainable development. We welcome this report's emphasis on aligning curriculum and assessment with the broader aims of education. We also recognize the importance of equipping learners with the knowledge, skills, value, and competencies necessary to thrive in a rapid changing world, including through critical thinking, creativity, digital literacy, and the responsible use of emerging technologies. At the same time, education reforms must remain responsive to national realities, development priorities, cultural values, and local knowledge system. We underscore the importance of the role of teachers, parents, and communities in shaping inclusive, relevant, and quality education for all. In this regard, we will appreciate the Special Rapporteur's views on how developing countries can strengthen the education system to prepare learners for technology transformation, including artificial intelligence, while preserving national ownership, cultural relevance, and equitable access to quality education. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Malawi.
Mr. Vice President, Malawi aligns herself with the African Group Statement and commends the Special Rapporteur for her insightful report on education. In Malawi, the Ministry of Education embraced outcome-based education through its primary curriculum and assessment reform in 2001 as part of the broader effort to improve service delivery within the education system and align with the internationally recognized aims of education. This reform was necessitated by the need to ensure that the right to education extend beyond mere availability and access, but to also guarantee that education was acceptable, adaptable, and oriented towards human dignity, meaningful participation, and mutual understanding. We agree with this Special Rapporteur's recommendation that states establish enforceable protection mechanisms, including confidential complaint channels, legal protection, and remedies, enabling learners, parents, teachers, and civil society organizations to report pedagogical and assessment-related harms without fear of reprisal and ensure accountability to rights holders. Malawi reaffirms its commitment to working with the states and stakeholders to embracing the right to education, including by implementation this Special Rapporteur's recommendation to ensuring curriculum and assessment involving service of human dignity and mutual understanding. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Cyprus.
Mr. Vice President, Cyprus aligns itself with the EU statement and thanks the Special Rapporteur for the presentation of her report. In a world shaped by rapid technological change, education systems are tasked with equipping learners with the knowledge and skills needed to navigate this increasingly complex societal realities. It is therefore vital to ensure that curriculum, pedagogy and assessment are aligned with the internationally recognized aims of education and contribute to the development of informed, resilient and engaged citizens. Cyprus remains committed to delivering a quality and forward-looking education system that promotes realization of all human rights amidst this emerging societal challenges. To this end, in 2024, Cyprus has undertaken a comprehensive review of its curricula across all levels of education, including the revision of 43 subjects material in an effort to mainstream skills-based learning, critical thinking skills, and creativity. New subjects such as financial literacy and career counseling have been introduced from the age of 12, aiming to cultivate the necessary skills for full participation in economic, social, and cultural life. Cyprus has also integrated the promotion of equality across the revised curriculum of multiple school subjects. Complementing this curriculum reforms, the National Strategy for the Prevention and Management of School Violence 2024 to 2028 brings together all relevant stakeholders to foster safe and inclusive learning environments, acknowledging that learners can only fully engage in these given they are protected from violence, discrimination, and intimidation. Together, these measures seek to ensure the alignment of curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment with the internationally recognized aims of education. Madam Special Rapporteur, what examples of good practices have you identified in ensuring that curricula, pedagogy, and assessment remain responsive to evolving societal and technological challenges? Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the State of Palestine.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. At the outset, we would like to thank the Special Rapporteur for her excellent report and presentation. As mentioned in the report, the right to education is a matter not only of access, but also of content. Education must aim to develop and strengthen respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms and for the principles enshrined in the UN Charter. In addition, treaty bodies have requested states to adequately reflect in school curricula the accurate history of their colonial past. The Special Rapporteur recommends states to safeguard curricula against political or ideological capture and indoctrination. Despite all this, there is a conscious, systematic strategy to erase Palestinian identity from Israeli school textbooks, as documented by Israeli education analysts. Textbooks deny the existence of the occupation and its illegal and colonial nature, labeling maps of the whole of historic Palestine, including the occupied territories, as Israel, or at best, they attempt to normalize it. Israeli philologist, professor of language and education, Nurit Peled El-Hanan, in her book, Palestine in Israeli School Books, Ideology and Propaganda in Education, demonstrates in detail how Israeli school books instill racist attitudes towards Palestinians, dehumanize or simply exclude them. The 1948 Nakba is denied or legitimated. As a result, young graduates of this education system drafted into the military implement Israeli policies against Palestinians, quote, whose life world is unknown to them and whose very existence they have been taught to resent and fear, unquote. This perpetuates occupation and apartheid and pushes prospects for peace further. I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Chile.
Thank you, Vice President. Chile thanks the Special Rapporteur for her report on curricular, pedagogy and assessment as components of the right to education. She analyzes the relationship between curricula, teaching practices and assessment models which provide students with the skills, values and resilience needed to handle and develop against a changing environment. The issue addressed is particularly important because the right to education is not just about access, but also encompasses quality and inclusion of teaching processes. We're going through swift social and technological change, so it's vital that education systems provide students with the tools, skills, and values needed to flourish in ever more complex and changing environments. Chile welcomes the report's emphasis on meaningful participation of students, teachers, and educational communities in building teaching and learning processes. This is reflected in our country's efforts to promote inclusive education designed for the comprehensive development of young people. Chile reiterates its commitment to the full enjoyment of the right to education and freedom of teaching, promoting educational policy based on human rights, equal opportunities, and strengthening the quality of education systems for all. Thank you.
Thank you. This was the last speaker we could accommodate for this dialogue. We will now turn to the list of speakers for national human rights institutions and non-governmental organizations. Accordingly, I give the floor to the representative of the Qatar National Human Rights Committee.
نائب الرئيس، السيدات والسادة، تؤكد اللجنة
Vice President, our committee reaffirms the importance of the right to education as a fundamental human right and a fundamental tool for equality and development in such a way as to build more stable and fairer societies. We follow the developments in Qatar in education and access to education at various levels. The state of Qatar has witnessed advanced levels of equality between girls and boys in all stages of education, including university. This shows the importance of investing in education, empowering women, and equal opportunity. There are national efforts in developing an education system that includes partnerships with international universities to improve scientific research and national capabilities. Internationally, our committee follows up on the role of Qatar in supporting children's education in armed conflicts and crisis areas through humanitarian and educational support programs driven by Qatari institutions. The constant challenge is to improve the quality of education and to support an educational environment in favor of critical thinking and based on human rights in a more sustainable and expansive manner. Our committee will continue to support the right to education and partner with national and international organizations in line with international standards of human rights. Thank you, Vice President.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of the Morocco National Human Rights Council.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Vice President. Madam Special Rapporteur, the UNHRC of Morocco agrees with you when you state that curricular pedagogy and assessment are core components of the right to education. Children can make appeals to our body, and so we work to ensure the right to education through three linked dimensions: infrastructure, teaching, and intersectorial nature. We to recall that we have a specific chapter in our annual report on the right to education, and we publish thematic reports and issue opinions and recommendations based on Morocco's international commitments and deal with complaints from the 12 regions of our country and have dialogues with different stakeholders to promote the right to education. We've adopted a roadmap in Morocco on educational reform, and we also have a framework agreement with the Ministry of Education to include human rights, citizenship and tolerance in schools. We believe that school curricula are vital for promoting a human rights culture by including the values of dignity, equality, freedom and respect for diversity and justice in curricula. We should help individuals be aware of their rights and duties and to be able to participate actively in a democratic, inclusive society. We believe there should be a human rights-based approach to designing school curricula and teaching practices. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission via video.
Distinguished President, members of the Human Rights Council, and the Special Rapporteur on the right to education, the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission commends efforts of the government to develop subsidiary legal framework to operationalize general education proclamation adopted last year. The Commission monitored the implementation of the right to education in pastoralist communities and found structural constraints, including inadequate classrooms, limited access to electricity, water, and sanitation facilities. These challenges are compounded by long travel distances to schools, harmful traditional practices affecting girls' education, and recurrent natural hazards. Conflict and insecurity continue to keep many children out of school. The Commission recommends the expansion of tailored education modalities such as mobile schools and accelerated educational infrastructure development in pastoralist areas. Finally, the Commission further reiterates its call to the government and international partners to take coordinated action to restore educational services and to facilitate the prompt return of children to schools. I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of Ouvre Orient via video.
Monsieur le Président.
Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Special Rapporteur. For over 170 years, Ouvre d'Orient has been supporting schools in the Middle East open to all without any ethnic or religious discrimination. Education is the heart of our mission, and that's why your report strikes such a poignant note with our concerns in Syria. You're quite right to remind us that when school programs are twisted, education become a means for exclusion and marginalization. We've seen tangible signs of this since the start of the school year last year. For the first time for many years, exam classes were single sex, and in school textbooks, stickers were put over illustrations of girls' arms and legs. Pre-Islamic civilization, their gods and heritage have been wiped off the history curriculum. We are worried that there's a risk of rewriting the joint history of all Syrians. School programs must reflect the diversity of all components of Syrian society. Christian communities deserve particular attention, not just for them in themselves, because their schools are open to all and they embody what you call for in your report, education serving mutual understanding and respecting all. Without reconciliation between communities, lasting peace will not be possible. We must be watchful of what is happening in Syria. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of the International Organization for the Right to Education and Freedom of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We thank the Special Rapporteur for her report and for her emphasis on the important topics of curriculum, assessment, and pedagogy. This report lays out how states can create pluralistic education systems and grant freedom of education as laid out in international human rights treaties. On the one hand, the report mentions that over-centralization of education can restrict curriculum pluralism. To avoid this, states need to collaborate with parents and communities to build a just education system that is adaptable and acceptable. On the other hand, the report points to the importance of a core curriculum to grant minimum educational standards. Parental rights, core curriculum. It is critical to recall that the two are not opposed, but two pillars of the same right. In that sense, we would like to ask the Special Rapporteur two questions. One, what should states take into account in order to balance parental rights and core curriculum in a way that does not compromise the right to education? And two, how can evaluation be built in a way that is compatible with the interests of different communities? I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of IDDH for a joint statement.
Mr. President, I speak on behalf of the NGO Working Group on Human Rights, Education and Learning. We congratulate the Special Rapporteur for her thematic report, notably for consulting children and youth in its preparation. As this year marks the 5th anniversary of the UN Declaration on Human Rights, Education and Training, we reaffirm that HRE must go beyond awareness raising to foster a universal culture of human rights, grounded in dignity, participation, equality, and respect for diversity. We also call on states to ensure that curriculum design processes are inclusive and participatory, involving teachers, learners, parents, and civil society, to invest in teacher training and support for addressing complex and sensitive issues in a rights-based manner, and to make full use of the Road Program for Human Rights Education, particularly its current 5th phase. Finally, we welcome the incorporation of creativity into the present study. Creativity is essential to the full development of the human personality, now more than ever. Human rights educators have long drawn on creative and arts-based methodologies to engage learners and make rights tangible. Yet, creativity too often remains marginalized in formal systems, constrained by rigid assessment pressures, a gap that states must urgently address. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of Helsinki Foundation for Human Rights.
Mr. Vice President, we thank the Special Rapporteur and wish to draw attention to the situation in Tibet, where education is systematically designed to advance assimilationist policies, undermining the rights and identity of Tibetan children. Tibetan children are increasingly taught primarily in Mandarin through curricula that are neither culturally nor linguistically appropriate. They are also subjected to intensive political and ideological indoctrination, including military-style training aimed at fostering loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party. These policies are reinforced by a vast colonial boarding school system that has separated more than 1 million children from their families and the widespread forced closures of Tibetan language schools. We are particularly concerned that the recently adopted law on ethnic unity and progress further institutionalizes this indoctrination of even Tibetan preschool children, including imposition of Chinese language teaching through textbooks with CCP ideology. UN special procedures have warned that the law risks further restricting the cultural and linguistic rights of Tibetans. These policies amount to serious violations of the rights of Tibetan children, including under the Convention on the Rights of the Child, to which we recall China is a party, to be reviewed by the Child Rights Committee beginning later this year. We therefore call on the Council to urge China to dismantle the boarding school system and the ideological indoctrination of Tibetan children and guarantee mother tongue education and full respect for Tibetan cultural and linguistic identity. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of Madre Incorporated for a joint statement.
President, Hamra Network welcomes the Special Rapporteur's report, especially its recognition that gender equality is violated within education, narrows girls' curricula, and reinforces conservative views of women's role. Since August 2021, the Taliban have banned girls and women from secondary education. Hamra Network's new report documents how the Taliban are constructing a parallel religious state education infrastructure through madrasas that is well resourced, well administered, and designed to supplant modern public education with a politicized religious framework. The Taliban have officially registered over 23,000 madrasas, exceeding Afghanistan's about 18,000 public schools. Their religious institutions impact all aspects of Afghan society. They established 92 madrasas in prisons and enrolled 9,000 orphans into the madrasa system. This is not ordinary religious education. It is a deliberate construction of an ideological infrastructure designed to cement the persecution of women and girls and other vulnerable groups. We urge this Council to act on two priorities. First, the international community must treat the restrictions of girls' secondary and higher education as non-negotiable red line in any.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of Baha'i International Community.
Mr. President, every year millions of young people look forward to entering university. They yearn to learn, dream of graduation day, imagine the careers they will pursue and the lives they will build. For the Baha'is in Iran, that dream will stay only a dream. One taken from them in 1979 when the Iranian government banned them outright from universities. Shamelessly, this policy of exclusion was codified through state directives and sent to universities across the country to be enforced. And now, almost 5 decades later, 3 successive generations of Baha'is have been banned from pursuing their dreams, their talents, their professions. The question, what do you want to be when you grow up, carries a painful weight for a Baha'i child in Iran, where access to education and employment is weaponized as instruments of oppression. Today, Baha'i youth, who are among Iran's brightest minds and talents, lie in prison instead of sitting in classrooms. Borna Naimi, Shakila Qasemi, Pevan Naimi, Parsa Najafi, Nuyan Hejazi, Yegane Ruhbakhsh, and many others are young Baha'is who have been tortured and imprisoned, some facing mock executions for one reason only, their faith. Not only is Iran depriving them of their rights, it is robbing the country itself of the talents and contributions of its young people. Special Rapporteur, we urge you to call on Iran to immediately and unconditionally end the exclusion of Baha'is from universities, release the youth in prison, and ensure equal access to education for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of Child Rights Connect.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I am from Northern Ireland and a member of the Children's Advisory Team of Child Rights Connect. I would like to thank the Special Reporter for this new report and her continuous effort to engage with children and young people. I wish this was a standard practice, but no. Many times we ask the question, why didn't they ask us when policymakers make a decision for us, but not with us? This is why there is so much momentum around the new possible optional protocol for free pre-primary and secondary education, as it brings children and young people to the table, represented by 5 child delegates, giving them a pivotal role in the process. Still, lots of children and young people don't know about the protocol, or those who want to know only have access to information that is littered with jargon and structured in ways that actively rejects youth audiences. How can we be beneficiaries of our rights if we don't have information about it? To combat this, we've been working to inform children and young people about the development of the new optional protocol through several child-led regional consultations, which also revealed overlapping themes around barriers to receiving education. But a point to keep in mind for the future is having maintained child participation in the implementation of the optional protocol. Children and young people have to participate when policies and laws are developed, so they can make sure the application of the protocol is accurate to what children and young people are experiencing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I now give the floor to the representative of Al Alain Social Care Foundation, intervention by video.
In 2006, Al Ain Social Care Foundation was founded to empower orphan children and their families. Many of them had entered the cycle of poverty because of conflict in Iraq. January 2026 marked 20 years of service to these vulnerable groups. Our model of care is rooted in research, expertise, and compassion. Providing a holistic education to orphan children is a top priority of our organization. To this end, we created the Hikayati Center, meaning My Story, in Iraq. This pioneering center offers programs to orphan children that combine education, play, coaching, therapy, and spiritual guidance. The center was developed to enable orphan children who may have suffered various traumas in their lives to receive the assistance they deserve. Each child benefits from one-to-one support and participates in workshops specifically designed for their needs. Long-term mentorship helps to build the children's resilience as they become the next generation of parents, workers, and leaders in their communities. As of 2026, 3,500 orphan children have benefited from this educational center. Beyond Hikayati, Al Ain also facilitates scholarships to cover university tuition fees, the purchase of school supplies, and additional educational courses to those who require them. Since 2006, over 800 orphan youth have received financial support to attend university through Al Ain. In addition, our vocational training centers are open to widowed mothers and orphan youth, where they can complete courses in areas such as mobile phone repair, computing, and hairdressing. Through lifelong learning initiatives, we aim to provide opportunities for education to some of the most neglected members of society. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of RFSL.
My name is Papa D, a queer activist from Uganda, representing a group of trans, lesbian, gay, and bisexual activists from the global South and East. We welcome the Special Rapporteur's report and its clear framing of curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment as core elements of the right to education. We particularly commend the report's emphasis on diversity, learner-centered pedagogy, the removal of gender stereotypes from curricula, and the need for safe space environments where diversity, including our queer families, is understood as a resource rather than a problem to be managed. At the same time, we encourage a stronger and more explicit focus on trans, non-binary, and gender-diverse learners. Across regions, they continue to face hostile curricula, misgendering, bullying, and violence, barriers to the use of their names and pronouns, exclusionary rules on uniforms, bathrooms, and participation in school life, and limited access to comprehensive sexuality education that reflects their realities. We therefore urge states to take concrete steps, adopt rights-based curricula and pedagogy that explicitly include trans, non-binary, and gender-diverse people, supported by anti-bullying protocols, gender-affirming administrative practices to monitor confidential complaints, and remedy mechanisms co-designed with trans and youth-led organizations to measure inclusion, well-being, and safety, not only academic performance. Ms. Farida Shahid, we ask how the mandate plans to support member states in adopting rights-based curricula and pedagogy that explicitly include...
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of International Catholic Child Bureau, intervention by video.
Vice President, the Catholic International Office for Childhood and Calia Scuola would like to congratulate the Special Rapporteur for her report, and would like to address early childhood in Paraguay. Calia Scuola opened a new early childhood center in President Franco. This was a joint effort with the municipal authorities with a view to promoting the holistic development of children under 5 and to ensure their rights. But municipalities have to support these centers, but they haven't got the resources yet. The Semillas del Futuro, Future Seeds program will build 100 centers for the under-8s. This has been recognized as a key tool for protecting and developing young children. So we urge the Paraguayan authorities to adopt a child rights-based approach, and that these centers be promoted in particular in rural and underprivileged areas, and there'll be a good partnership with municipalities. Communities and families must be involved in order to ensure that there is good quality education for young children so that they can successfully move into pre-primary education. We call on Paraguay to accept UPR recommendations concerning education and protection of young children. Thank you.
Thank you. This was the last speaker we could accommodate for this dialogue. I now give the floor to Ms. Shahid for her concluding remarks. You have 9 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and thank you everyone for your contributions. I am sorry that everyone is not able to speak. We are trying something new. Those of you who have not been able to interact with us, I will be holding what for the moment we're calling a clinic Concordia 4, so those who have not been able to speak would be able to have an interaction with us. This is something new. But in the meantime, let me answer what I can of the questions asked. I think But it's not going to be easy. Human rights never is. So when you are looking at what needs to happen, there will be challenges. But I go by the Sustainable Development Goal of leaving no one behind. When we say leaving no one behind, we have to see who's in the classroom. And we have to see who's not also in the classroom, but needs that education. And that's when it becomes important to rethink how we're doing education. And after, more than a century of schools being the way they are, we need to move forward with something else. We have heard here concerns, but also recommendations on digital education, on AI, how AI can benefit us and how it can present problems too. There is a separate report that I've done on the AI, but I think this is a question which will keep coming back. On some of the basic questions, the Child Rights Convention, Article 29, says very clearly the purpose is to be, the education should be child-centered, child-friendly, and empowering. It should promote human dignity, self-esteem, self-confidence. And we have to remember when we say all of these things, not all children are alike. They're quite diverse. Their needs are diverse. Their learning may be diverse. So we have to adapt education to suit the learner, not try and push the learner into set ways of teaching and curriculum, etc. I think we've heard quite a bit here, and I will emphasize it's not just the assessment. We need summative, not summative assessments, formative assessments that accompany the children so we can see the progress of children, but also older learners. Heavy workloads and stress, you heard the children speak, there's an emotional harm there. It prevents growth. We need to be aware of that. We have several evidences now that overlooking play, recreation, unstructured interaction is key to children's development. So they can't always be in a classroom with rigid curricula. And UNESCO, of course, has the Happy Schools initiative, where happiness is seen to contribute to and is also an indicator of quality education. So we need to see how to stimulate creativity, and that must be a cross-cutting competence. It's not an optional add-on to what is happening. And you do have various countries who are trying new ways of doing that. We have Finland, for instance, but also Korea, where practical arts and specialized art pathways are being created. The Child Rights Convention and committee specifically says children, parents, views are to be included in planning, curricula, and programs. UNESCO says this must be a co-design process. So we do have people who are using these methods to ensure. Several questions went, how do you do curricula? How do you do participation? Well, countries are trying it out, and I think we need to gather the best evidence. We've seen in Finland, for instance, very young children have been consulted on what should be but you need appropriate techniques. We have the same we've heard from Ireland. Australia also has a process, multi-layered processes of involving different people who are concerned in education. Linear examinations and formats disadvantage your neurodivergent learners. And there's a big call by the treaty bodies, and we heard this from a speaker now, that the frameworks for education must be decolonized, and we must promote indigenous knowledge. Curricula and assessment materials, I feel, must be audited for the embedded biases that exist, and then we need to see how to make it better. Pedagogy, of course, has to be adjusted for different learners, including from different cultural identities, language, knowledge systems, and the right to self-determination, which I'll come back to. We have, for instance, examples from New Zealand, where the Kura Kaupapa Maori pedagogy has been introduced. In Ecuador, there's intercultural approaches. I'm sorry I can't name everyone, but we are seeing changes, which is very positive. Integrating schools and communities has started, and I heard several concerns here about how do you get the community, how do you get local knowledge going. All of this is we have, for instance, initiatives in Spain, in Portugal, in Mexico. In Canada, Indigenous elders are being acknowledged as knowledge holders and as teachers, and so there's a change. In Uganda, we have the Ubuntu-inspired pedagogy, which has started to be practiced. All of these, I think, are very good examples. And I think, however, teachers need to be supported. I've written a whole report on teachers. We expect them to pivot and change and be responsive to the very fast-changing world without providing them the support that they need and continuous education that they need in order to go forward. People have asked, how do you go about this? We've heard from UNESCO. I will repeat it. UNESCO has very high quality. The IBE curriculum development, they can help you with countries who are interested. They really need to get there. The documentation center of the UNESCO IBE is very rich. It's a repository of what can happen. I think there's guidance on different human rights, citizenship, exists, it's extensive. I think what's happening here is that a big gap between prescribed curricula and everyday classroom practices. We have exam pressures and workloads which define how examinations will define very often development, what is taught, how it's taught. So what teachers and other experts have called teaching to the